Hi, my name is Elizabeth Benitez, and I chose to do my final project on the Becca Bill and how it is being implemented in the 9 Mile Falls School District in Stevens County here in Washington State. So, the Becca Bill is the law here in Washington State that requires children to attend school. This definition says that the Becca Bill requires all children between ages 8 and 18 to attend school regularly. The law requires parents or legal guardians to make sure their children are in school regularly. Students can be in public school, private school, or homeschooled. The law requires that students are in school full time every day unless there's a valid excuse. If a student misses school without a valid excuse, the student might be considered truant. When a student is truant, schools are required to take action. So throughout the rest of my presentation, I will be explaining how 9 Mile Falls School District implements in this bill and does take action when students are considered truant and what policies and procedures they follow to assist these kids in attending school and making sure that they're meeting the requirements for attendance. So I have included my eco map that I made for the 9 Mile Falls School District from my past assignment. I think that some background information on the school district might be helpful to understand better how they implement the Becca Bill, as every school and every school district will vary a little bit in how they implement policies and procedures. So some background info on the school district is that it's in Stevens County. It's a fairly small school district. I think the schools average about 100 students per grade. It's a fairly wealthy community. I think somewhere between 20 and 30% low income students on free or reduced lunch, as well as somewhere between, I believe, 97 and 99% of the students are white ethnically. So that is just some background information and demographics that I think might be helpful in understanding how and why the school implements the Becca Bill in the ways that they do, and then this eco map for reference and how I thought that the school district functions. So as for the policies and procedures that the 9 Mile Falls School District does use for the Becca Bill, they use a specific set of steps that fall in line based on how many absences a student has accumulated. So school staff and then the community members that they collaborate with follow procedures based on that number of absences. And administrators or the attendance officer involved with contacting the student will maybe be a little bit more lenient on students who are showing improvement or have extenuating circumstances, but for the most part, they follow the procedure fairly closely. So the flowchart on the next slide will actually give more detail and examples of what happens when a student is being considered truant. So I was given this flowchart by one of the attendance officers that works in the 9 Mile Falls School District. And this is the basic flow of procedures that the school district takes when a student is considered truant. So as you can see from left to right, after the first unexcused absence within any month, the school will inform the parents by a written letter or by phone call. After 3 unexcused absences within any month, a conference will be scheduled with the parent or guardian as well as the student with members in the school to help identify barriers that are getting in the way of the student attending school, as well as any supports or strength factors that can be further implemented to help the student's attendance increase. Between 2 to 5 unexcused absences in a school year, the student must be assessed using an assessment tool, as well as an attendance contract will be made. This attendance contract will be between the school, the student, and the parents, saying that they're starting to be considered truant and they can't be missing any more school without consequences. So then, no later than 5 unexcused absences in a month. The school district that I work in goes the community truancy board hearing route. As you can see, there's a few different routes you can take. So that's the primary one they use, and that's when they'll meet with the community truancy board, the student and the family, and they'll try to gain some better understanding of how important school is, as well as how they can, the school and community can help in increasing the students' attendance. And then from there, if the students' attendance still continues to decline and not increase and not show any positive changes, then that is when a petition will be filed, and the student and parents will likely have to go to truancy court and face the legal consequences that comes with missing an extreme amount of school. And depending on the circumstances of the student and the family, the outcome may be different, but that could include legal fees or the student even having to go to juvenile detention center for their missed school. So, some of the student and parent services available to those students who are really having problems attending school and not meeting the requirements. The first one, like I mentioned in that flow chart, was a conference with school staff, with the student and the family together to possibly identify some attendance barriers, as well as figure out ways that the school can directly support that student and their family in helping that student increase their attendance and be absent from school less. So, another service available to students and parents who are struggling with students who are often absent from school is the Community Truancy Board meeting, which is very similar to the conference with school staff, but it's made up of community members trained on assisting students with truancy problems. So, this description I'm about to explain is from the Washington State Governor's Office of Education, and it says that community truancy boards are groups of people in the community brought together by a joint agreement between a school district and the county juvenile court. So the board members include members who have received training on how to identify barriers to school attendance. They're trained on how to use assessment tools that are accepted in Washington State. They're have been trained in culturally responsive interactions, trauma informed approaches to discipline, evidence based treatments for supporting at risk youth and their families, as well as specific services and treatments available in the local school, court, and community. So the Community Truancy Board will meet with the student and their parents and then try and identify some of those barriers and interventions that may work, and then they also will make recommendations for student consequences, whether that is recommending that the student switches schools, or maybe instead of going to juvenile court, they're referred to another organization in the community that they feel would better serve that student in intervening for truancy problems. And then one other student support at school would be social emotional support through either the YFA counseling that is offered within schools in the 9 Mile Falls School District, or through school social worker or school counselors that work in the schools. A lot of students who have attendance issues also could benefit from social emotional support, whether that's because they have experienced trauma that's acting as a barrier to school attendance or for other reasons. This is a service that's offered to all students, but specifically also those who are suffering from attendance issues. So I met with Bob Cameron, a school social worker in the 9 Mile Falls School District, to discuss what his role is in the school district in providing services and support to students who are truant. He described that he counsels students who have attendance issues. Oftentimes, they're on his caseload for using the National Check and Connect program to check in with students as well as their parents. He provides academic as well as social emotional support to a lot of the students who do have truancy issues, because they are usually suffering from multiple barriers to getting to school, including academic or social emotional issues. He also acts as a connector between the school and the family, acting as a communicator and a person who can connect them and get them more on the same page. He He also assists in, or sometimes he'll facilitate meetings in developing student success plans that may be attendance specific. And then he is also a student advocate in getting services that the student needs or finding resources that can help them. He also collaborates with school administrators and the attendance officer that works in the school districts, or that work the different attendance officers that work within the school district. He consults with the attendance officer as well as may work with them to advocate for student resources or things that should be in the student success plan, and working and advocating to get those for the student. I also met with Tom Oliver, who's the attendance officer. He has a dual role at the school he works at because he is also a teacher, but he's the primary contact for uh, the guardians and families of students who have attendance issues. He provides a lot of services, including creating attendance contracts with the students and the guardians. Um, he contacts them. He'll schedule the community truancy board meetings. He also files the petitions for court if attendance does not improve after following the procedure steps. And he also helps provide resources to parents who cannot get their kid to school based on behavioral problems. He can help with finding resources. Um, he collaborates with members within and outside of the school, so he works a lot with the school social worker. He consults with him, and like I said before, oftentimes kids who have attendance issues are also receiving support for other reasons too, so they'll consult together to kind of collaborate and figure out how to best support the student. He also collaborates with the community truancy board members to develop a plan for the student to attend school, and to figure out how to help that student be successful. He also works with the local truancy court when the students exceed the allowed number of absences when he files the petitions. The attendance officer and the school social worker collaborate to develop a plan and how to work with students and families to increase attendance. He told me an example of one student who was unable to reach the bus because her home was located a 2-mile walk from her house to the bus stop. And so the attendance officer and the school social worker were able to collaborate and develop a plan together in which that the student would come late, and she would come late every day so that she could catch the later bus with her younger brother who goes to the elementary school, so that her parents would only have to drive them up the 2-mile way to the bus stop once a day instead of twice every morning for her and her brother. So they were able to work that plan out and develop that plan to increase the student's attendance. She did have to be late, but that was better than not coming to school at all every day. So that was the information that I found on how the 9 Mile Falls School District implements the Becca Bill and looks out for students who have continuous attendance issues. I found this information through research as well as through interviewing 2 different professionals in the school district. And here are my references.